In a world so divided on issues that have a profound effect on humanity, how can we possibly help people to see that all human life is valuable?
And that all of these life issues are connected. It may feel overwhelming, but you are not alone.
Welcome to Consistent Life Network's Peace and Life Conversations podcast, where we will explore the journeys and thoughts of activists and everyday people of all generations who are working for the protection of all human life and promoting the consistent life ethic. Welcome. Consistent Life Network's mission is to uphold the consistent life ethic from conception to natural death through education and advocacy, rejecting the cycle of violence toward all life. Particularly, we oppose war, abortion, the death penalty, euthanasia, racism, and poverty. I'm your co-host today, Tony Masalonis. This is part 2 of 2 about youth education topics with young people and with those who work with young people. And I'd like to introduce my co-host, who's also sort of our guest today as well, Rosalyn Mitchell.
Hi, everyone. I'm Rosalyn, your co-host. However, since today's topic is on youth activism, I'll be interviewed along with our guest. We're wrapping up our series on youth activism, and we'll explore specifically how activists engage with the community and what is being accomplished to better humanity through their work.
Great. Thanks, Rosalyn. I'd like to introduce today's guests. And again, this is part 2 of 2. So some of you have seen and heard these guys before, but we have Sonja Morin, Talon Lemoine, and Rosalyn Mitchell, all of whom are youth activists. Rosalyn's an intern with the Consistent Life Network and currently a political science student at the University of Waterloo. She is passionate about all things political and will be joining the Canadian Centre for Bioethical Reform to advocate for the unborn this summer. Sonja is a freshman studying psychology, good stuff, as well as film and media studies at the University of Massachusetts, Dartmouth. Also a current intern with the Consistent Life Network, and she uses mediums such as graphic design, photography, film, and social media to advocate for human rights. And similarly, Talon uses film to raise awareness through a collaborative upcoming video series on consistent life topics, which will be on our YouTube channel before you know it. He's a high school student from New Orleans, and he's running his school's leadership academy to instill leadership and critical thinking skills. He's also associated with the Archdiocese of New Orleans and Louisiana Right to Life. So we're just going to ask a couple of questions today on our podcast episode and have you guys take turns answering them. Our first question is, how does one stay consistent in defending the right of all people to live free from violence? And we'll start with...
So the most principal thing in staying consistent is remembering your values, remembering your identity. I've been recently reading this book called Atomic Habits, and it discusses how in order to create a foundation for starting up anything, be it something as simple as taking on exercising or building in safer driving or health management habits to something as large as committing yourself to a political or social cause, you need to start first with reviewing your identity, revealing who you are and announcing yourself as that. Committing yourself to being an activist and committing yourself to realize that you are a human and like everyone else, you're deserving of dignity, you're deserving of rights. That is the chiefest thing to keep in mind. And in a link to that basically is the idea of understanding your humanity in common with others. We are all made equal by our shared human dignity and our shared ability to exercise our basic rights. And so remembering that solidarity that we share just on account of our human nature, that is like the very basis of staying consistent, basically. Another thing that is needed when staying consistent with activism is keeping up on current human rights issues. Again, the Consistent Life Network advocates specifically for abortion, against abortion, euthanasia, racism, capital punishment, war, and poverty. And there are many interlinking issues that can kind of tie into them. Like, for example, with abortion, can interplay the issue of poverty, of misogyny and sexism in the workplace and education institutions. There can be a laundry list, really, of things that can interconnect. And with that is the call for each activist to really reevaluate what their beliefs are when it comes to each issue, and then be able to understand what are the groundwork solutions that can help with that sort of thing. And so, in staying consistent, you're not only clarifying your values, not only clarifying who you are as a person, who everyone else is as humans, but also understanding, the constant action that needs to be done and continuing to educate yourself, continuing to educate others, and continuing to stay on task when it comes to defending people's basic rights at the most ground level and basic ways, including just respecting others on a day-to-day basis. Really grounding those kind of things into your daily life, into your interactions with other people, into your advocacy at your school, at your work, wherever you end up going. Those are the kinds of things where you end up working for advocacy and activism in your community. Activism won't come in unless you allow it to be maintained in a stable part of your life. And so that's really the key when it comes to committing yourself to this kind of work.
Great. Thank you for that great response, Sonja. How about Talon?
So I believe that one must decide on how important life is first. Then once this decision is made, it will be much easier to choose their side on specific life issues such as abortion or the death penalty. And the activism part will come easy due to their view on life, and that is what they're advocating for primarily. So as activists, it is our job to help other people to come to the decision that we have. The stronger you feel about the importance of life in our society, the more neutral activism or natural activism will come to you. I venture to say that the best activists for the consistent life ethic can put other lives before their own. And there's no greater measurement of their care for life than this. Like Sonja was saying, it all starts off with the small things, showing respect on a day-to-day basis, just maybe holding the door for somebody, showing respect for life in that way so that you can push towards and be more progressive and getting towards those bigger image pictures on life.
Well put, Talon. Thank you so much. And Rosalyn.
Thank you. So I think it takes great courage, because often when you are a consistent life activist, you're politically homeless, or at least within the context of traditional left-right politics in North America. And after examining the facts, it really bears the reality of how hypocritical these mainstream parties are and how both sides have their flaws. And I think that comes from a desire of knowledge. And for me, that means reading a lot. And I think inquiry is a muscle you develop, and education really encourages this. And while you may not be able to afford formal education, I think an education doesn't have to be necessarily exclusively through books. It is very much about soft skills, for example, communication. And it's our job as activists to translate these high-brained ideas into common language that anybody can understand. Another important area is social relationships. We must live the lives of those who we want to help, because we can only defend the rights of all people to live free from violence once we gain an empathy for them. And we develop that through common ground. And you can't do that unless you spend time with people. Because then it really teaches us through personal experience the inherent value of people who are different from ourselves. And combined, you create a better picture of somebody who is an activist who can stay grounded to their principles. Even though this work is hard and difficult, it really keeps the heart of what we do alive.
Thank you, Rosalind, and thanks to all three of you. We're 3 for 3 on just great answers to that query. It's really, consistency. So we're consistent life epicists in that we consistently oppose violence to everyone, no matter, what who they are and why the violence is being done to them. But there's also that kind of consistency in the sense of consistency between that belief and, who you are and how you treat everyday people, even those not currently threatened by violence. So there's really a whole consistency of life. I think that you guys are already, at a younger age than I am, and already understanding, and that's just awesome. We're going to just ask one more question. Try to not to keep our faithful listeners too long. The other question we want to ask today is, what are the benefits of youth activism, both to the activists and perhaps to others as well? The benefits of activism. And we'll go in the same order. So
What I think of just how things have developed over the course of time with me being an activist, starting in through middle school, continuing on to high school, now in college. The quote from C.S. Lewis's novel, The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, in reference to Aslan comes up, where it is said in reference to Aslan, of course he isn't safe, but he's good. And to me, that's been the overarching theme with activism, where being an activist, like being truly rooted in a specific cause, especially when it comes to human rights, it doesn't exactly guarantee you a good social status. It doesn't guarantee you like almost worldly rewards in that sense. But what activism does guarantee is the ability to be invested in a cause greater than yourself. And that in itself is rewarding, not in what it gives to you, but in the way that you're able to give to your community, be it your local community, be it your state, be it even your country or, your continent. Like, you can have more profound effects than you realize. And just in that knowledge that you can be so beneficial to someone's survival or someone's access to basic rights is just so profound that it far surpasses anything that any worldly reward could offer. The other benefit really to youth activism is the community. I have been incredibly blessed with the people that I've encountered through consistent life activism. I first got involved with Students for Life of America. I moved on from there with a Students for Life club at my high school, then on to pro-life organizations within my state, and now with finding activists in the Boston area, kind of down my way to Dartmouth, and now with Consistent Life Network opening up to so many doors between our organization in itself and our member groups, such as Secular Pro-Life, Rehumanized International, for Life of America, the Catholic Worker, so many others. I have met nothing but the most respectful, compassionate people I've ever met in my life, be it in person or online. And it's just such a heartwarming community because they're so committed to life that love for others just radiates from them. And it truly is a blessed and wonderful community to work with. And honestly, their enthusiasm keeps inspiring you to keep on with activism. So that's definitely one of the ultimate benefits is the community and that inspiration that you gain and the wisdom that you gain from experiencing this kind of thing with others as we all continuously fight for life.
very cool. Thank you, Sonja and Talon.
So one should not really become an activist to benefit themselves. They do it for the sake of humanity and their knowledge of what is truly right. Eventually, my generation will be the leaders of the world, and youth activists will inspire many of these future leaders or probably become those leaders. We're capable of changing the world, so we do. It is as simple as that. We cannot be satisfied with the current social setting of the world, or our work becomes meaningless. Satisfaction is one of the greatest threats to change. I suppose a benefit of youth activism is a feeling that you're doing the right thing, which is definitely not always the easiest thing to do. Once one starts out as a youth activist, they continue to learn and grow to become better. this not only helps them, but it will help other people if their acquired intelligence is used appropriately.
Okay, thanks, Talon. And Rosalyn?
Yeah, I share the same sentiment, especially with Sonia, about how warm and welcoming this community is. I think, as Talon says, youth activism really does challenge apathy. And I think it's comical how predictably each generation claims that, that the next generation is spoiled and lazy. And it's like a tree that needs pruning. It keeps us grounded. We also need the fruit of innovation. It's a general rule that youth, on average, are more progressive than their parents and their grandparents. Because without that push towards progress, society dies, which is how I define the role of a youth activist. We challenge the gatekeepers and defend the rights once limited to the few. We work for a more peaceful world, often lost on the pessimism of our elders, which is cyclical, I might want to add. Even though I am optimistic now, I do think when I'm older, it will be my children who push me forward. And it's the same for my colleagues too.
It's really inspiring to see your generation kind of rising and calling out and just actively working for an end to all violence. To our faithful listeners and or viewers, if you want to learn more about the Consistent Life Network, please visit our website, w.consistentlifenetwork, all one word, .org. That should be in the able to read that on the website or wherever you get our podcast from. You can also find us on Twitter at Consistent Life, one word, and on Instagram at Consistent Life Net. And we are also on Facebook as Consistent Life. So this, again, concludes our two-part series on youth activism. Please join us next time for our next Consistent Life podcast. Thanks again.
Yes, thank you, everybody. Goodbye and peace.
Thanks for joining the Consistent Life Network's Peace and Life Conversations podcast. All links and organizations mentioned in our episodes are linked in the description box. For more information, visit us at consistentlifenetwork.org. We'll see you next time.